රිදෙන ජීවිතේ.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Shehan Ranadunga. First, let's take a look at your headlines.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Jatika Janabalavagiya takes to the streets. All-party convention held to seek a common solution. Ranil dismisses political accusations.
මේක අන්තිමට ඉවරෙන්නේ විජය රජුරෝනේ. එයා ලංකාවට ඇවිල්ලා ආවේ නැත්තම් මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. ඕකයි වෙන්නේ ඉතින්
දැන් ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක දුන්න.
ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක මට කමන්න දෙන්නා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ.
දැන් ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක දෙන්න බෑ. ඒ මොකද ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එකේ අපි චැලෙන්ජ් කරලා තියෙනවා.
ඔබතුමාගේ හිත රිදිල්ලක් වුණා නම් ඒකට සමාව ඉල්ලනවා. මම හිතන්නේ අර ක්‍රමවේදයේ එනකොට අවුරුදු ගානින්ද තමයි ඔබතුමා ඒක දැක්කුවේ.
US says it will stand with Sri Lanka. Calls Sri Lanka's decision to seek IMF support courageous. Government accused of secret deals as people stand in queues.
කෝ විනිවිද භාවය කෝ ප්‍රසම්පාදන ක්‍රමවේදය මේ වගේ ගනුදෙනු ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ අහිංසක ජනතාව අර පෝලිං වල ඉන්න මොහොතක.
ඔබතුමා තෙල් ගේන එක ගැන දැන් කියනවා තෙල් වල හොරකමක් එන්න යනවා. ඔබතුමාලාගේ විපක්ෂයේ වෙලාවට කියනවා තෙල් ගේන්න කෑස් නැහැ කියලා.
කරුණා කරලා මේ මෙතනින් එළියට ගිහිල්ලා අර පෝලිමේ ඉන්න ජනතාව
හොඳයි අපි නිමා කරමු.
ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නකෝ බලන්න.
More Sri Lankans flee to Tamil Nadu. Central bank orders all banks to sell 50% of their US dollar proceeds.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Now to start things off, let's take a look at the news here at home. Jatika Janabalavagiya leader Anukumara Dissanayake says the government must be removed from power. He made these remarks during a protest march organized by his party in Nugegoda today.
The Jatika Janabalavagiya launched a protest march from Lanka today. The protest was held under the slogan, "End the 74-year curse." Join us to dismiss this tyrannical government. The protesters marched along High Level Road to the Ananda Samarakun Open Air Theatre in Nugegoda.
අද ජනාධිපති මන්දිරේ සාකච්ඡාවක් තිබ්බා මේ රට හදන.
The discussion was held at the President's house calling for proposals to uplift the country. One person at the meeting was Basil Rajapaksa. He's a thief. Then there is Ranil, who protected fraudsters who looted millions from the central bank. Then there is the President, who is facing court cases for looting public resources and was only released because of his immunity. His lawyer said he had 35 cases before this President came to power. Former President Maitri was called a puppet. Do you remember that?
හිටපු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාලට කිව්වා පඹයෙක් කිව්වා. මතකද? ඊට පස්සේ හිටන් කිව්වා. හුටන් කිව්වා. දැන් ඒ ජනාධිපති වේදිකාවට ඇවිල්ලා කියනවා එයාගේ කාලේ টොප් කියලා. දැන් එහෙනම් කොහොම තියෙන්න ඕන?
Now that President comes to the stage and says the country performed well when he was in power. If that's the case, shouldn't we be in a better position today? He was also in the meeting. Then there was a person who purchased bonds from Greece when its economy was collapsing and caused massive losses to the country. He invested funds of the Employees Provident Fund, 12 years in prison. Cabral had paid that CIA mole $6.5 million. Can that Cabral resolve the country's problems? Then we have Mahinda Rajapaksa, who pushed the country into a debt trap and looted millions from the public coffers. If we attended the meeting, we will only tell them one thing. We would say Gotabaya that he has to resign, as we have had enough. We came here to Nugegoda for one reason, that is to demand the Rajapaksas to resign. I have a proposal that was tabled in the cabinet on March 18th. Gotabaya Rajapaksa has signed this. I have in fact 7 cabinet papers. These are all about agreements concerning national security. Some agreements have been signed even before obtaining cabinet approval. This cabinet paper reads that the letter of exchange for Adonia's surveillance aircraft was signed with India's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, who represented the Indian government on March 15th, as it had to be done before the finance minister's visit to India. They signed the documents on March 15th and tabled it in the cabinet on the 18th, seeking approval for a document that was already signed. Why have all of you gathered here? That is to change this administration and to bring in a people-centric government.
News First with the people.
Let's now cross over for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Register today for a Zoom workshop on new technology in Sinhala.
Win the world with innovations. On the 24th of March at 3 p.m.
Register via 0777 60020.
Organized by Slit Institute.
Tech Bus.
Main sponsor.
Slit Knowledge University. Challenging convention and redefining education.
Welcome back. Now, the All-Party Convention convened today to find solutions to the current economic crisis in the country, and it began at the President's house this morning. The convention was chaired by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
The President, Prime Minister, representatives of the Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna, the United National Party, 2 parties of the Tamil National Alliance and representatives of several other parties attended the conference. 7 of the 15 political parties in Parliament, including the Samika Jana Balawegaya and the Jatbal Atharaliya Ratanathero and Professor Tissa Vitharna, attended the convention, representing 11 constituent parties of the government. Although the Muslim Congress boycotted the convention, Parliamentarian Nasir Ahmed from the Muslim Congress attended the meeting. Also on Muslim Congress Parliamentarian Musharraf Mudanabin attended the convention, although his party boycotted the convention. Parliamentarian Ali Sabri Rahim from the Muslim National Congress also attended the convention. This isn't something that will host in the future and discuss with us the short-term and long-term solutions on how the country can move.
From 2015 to 2019, the economic growth of Sri Lanka fell from 7% to 2%. The government intends to seek assistance from the IMF. The IMF recently highlighted the need to establish a stable economy and build confidence. When we are dealing with the IMF in the future, we need to remember that their policies may become more strict.
We did
not come here to talk about who should be responsible for the party politics. I was disappointed that the governor the way up to King Vijaya, and you might say that if he did not come to Sri Lanka, we would not have such an issue. We had a different policy back then. People, food and fuel during those days. I will not say anything more than that. I apologize if you were hurt by that statement. I believe he pointed out the procedure on how it happened. He didn't mean to accuse anyone.
The
only way that the damage can be reversed is that there is a consensus on the fundamentals of the economic policy of the country. The parties in parliament must come to a national consensus on a short-term, medium-term and long-term policy. We have not seen any transparency or dedication from the government in this regard. The government has failed to table the report of the IMF.
IMF වාර්තාව අපිට තාම සම්පූර්ණයෙන් ඇහිලා නැහැ.
ඒගොල්ලෝ කියලා තියෙන එව්වා කියලා.
නෑ නෑ අපිට ඇහිලා නැහැ.
එහෙනම් අපි අහමු එතන මේ මන්ට ජනාධිපතිතුමා දැන් හරි යාට එන්න කිව්වොත් අපිට මේ කතා කරලා විස්තර ගන්න.
ඒක ඇහිලා නැහැ.
හරි නියෝජිතයාට එන්න කිව්වොත් අපි මේක ඒක නැත්තම් අපි පිළිගන්නේ
නෑ අපි වගකීමකින් කියනවා අපිට තාම වාර්තාව ඇහිලා නැහැ.
තුමා ඉතින් එහෙනම් එයා එවල නැත්තම් අපි කියමු එන්න එවන්න කියලා.
නෑ ඉතින් අපි ඒක යවලා තියෙනවා අපිට ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක එවලා තියෙනවා. ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක අපි අපේ අදහස් එක්ක
ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක වෙලා තියෙනවා. හරි.
ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක නේ එවන්නේ මුලින්. ඊට පස්සේ ඒක රිපෝට් එක ෆයිනලයිස් කරලා බෝඩ් එකට දාලා ඒකට ඒවයි. ඒක
අඩුගානේ පිළිගන්නවා ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක ආවා කියලා. මෙතෙක් කල් ආවේ නැහැ කියලා.
නෑ ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එකක් මුලින් අපි ඒක සාකච්ඡා කරන ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක ඉතින් ඔබතුමා දන්නෝනේ මට වැඩි හොඳට
නෑ ඔබතුමා ගිහින් තියන්න කමන්නේ. ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එකක් ආවනම් අපි දෙන දවසක් මොකද්ද?
දැන් ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක දුන්න ඔයාලට.
ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක මට කමන්නේ දෙන්නා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට.
නෑ ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක දෙන්න බෑ. ඒ මොකද ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එකේ අපි කෙලෙන් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඔව් අපි වාර්තාව කියන්න ලේකම්තුමා.
අපට ඇත්තේ එකම විකල්පයකේ. එහෙනම්
we have only one alternative. We should establish a common consensus and request from friendly nations and formulate a new economic plan. India, Japan, China and European countries should be included in this list of countries. We should work with the IMF.
එක සමග එක්ව වැඩ කර යුතුය.
ඩොලර් බිලියන 6කට ආසන්න ණය වාරික ගෙවීම.
To face this challenge of paying back close to $6 billion in loan repayments, we must appoint a special advisory committee to hold discussions with all international organizations and states that have given us these loans and to restructure all of these loans. This is the opinion that the cabinet portfolios must be reassessed and the number of cabinet ministers should also be reduced. We propose that a fuel price formula where the price of fuel in the country fluctuates with the world crude oil prices must be implemented. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party is also of the opinion that representatives of friendly nations should be invited for a diplomatic conference in Sri Lanka.
If we do not understand the situation in the Indo-Pacific, we will become a nation of beggars who will become slaves to the world powers. We are facing a risk of our airspace, our seas and our ports falling into the grasp of foreign powers. We must not bow down to the power of China, India, the United States or Russia. You mentioned two words at Ruan Valley Saya. You said that you will move towards a neutral position. You also used the English word sustainable. You must practically implement these words.
Meanwhile, MP Diana Gamage, speaking at the all-party convention, suggested
recently legalized the export of cannabis in 3 states. We have lost about $2 billion since this proposal was brought. If we had implemented this proposal and passed this law in the country and legalized cannabis, we could have earned $2 billion. But today, we have lost that.
Firstly, our party and the government is of a strong opinion that we must not depend on energy in the form of solar, water and wind. We hope to generate the power we need using these renewable energy resources. There were various things said about going to the IMF. The IMF is not something that is new to the country. They have an office in Sri Lanka. They provide a report on the country every year. The former Prime Minister raised a question on the report. We have only got the draft. We have made certain amendments and sent it back. We hope to give the general public some massive concessions during the upcoming Sinhala and Tamil New Year. I am ready to present a new budget along with those concessions as the Finance Minister.
අයවැයක් ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමට මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා ලෙස මම එකඟයි. ඉතින් මට මතක් වෙන්නේ අර මම කියපු වනේ ගිරිජාය දුටුවත් වනසාය ලිඳේ පනිදාය වැටුනොත් ඌකාය අතකින් කරවැලකි අතකින් දඬුබෑය මරණ තුනක් ඇති මිනිසෙක් පැණිකාය.
Meanwhile, the United States has commended Sri Lanka for its decision to seek the assistance of the International Monetary Fund or the IMF and the decision made to achieve the 70% renewable energy target by 2030. The Undersecretary for Political Affairs of the United States Department of State, Victoria Nuland, who is in Sri Lanka on a 2-day official visit, conveyed the message during a joint press briefing at the Foreign Ministry this morning. Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Parish joined the media briefing at the ministry.
We've had a very rewarding and complete discussion at the cooperation dialogue on a whole range of matters of fundamental importance both to the United States and to Sri Lanka. We have, Excellency, 66 missions abroad, and we have told all of them in no uncertain terms that their principal focus this year should be on economic diplomacy. That is what our country needs at this time. There is non-debt inflows of foreign exchange, by which we mean trade, investment, and tourism. In that overall context, it is natural that in our discussions we should have paid considerable attention to the economic dimension of the relationship between our two great countries. So we explored avenues that are available for more vigorous investment by American companies into Sri Lanka, ways of developing the contours of our trade relations.
We come at a particularly difficult and pivotal moment for Sri Lanka, and you are a vital partner of the United States at a key crossroads in the Indo-Pacific, and we are eager to support you at this critical moment. Our economic relationship is absolutely vital. It is already strong throughout the COVID period. Our trade actually grew, which is quite stunning. What's absolutely crucial, though, is the courageous step by the government to reach out to the International Monetary Fund for help now with your debt overhang, with your fiscal and monetary needs. And as you roll up your sleeves and do the hard work to strengthen and heal the economy here, the United States will be your partner, and we will strengthen the capacity in our embassy to work with you at this vital moment.
A joint statement by the governments of Sri Lanka and the United States said that Sri Lanka welcomed the role of the US International Development Finance Corporation, which has increased its portfolio to $265 million in loans designed to support Sri Lanka's small and medium enterprises, particularly women-owned businesses. Sri Lanka has welcomed the impending arrival of the third high-endurance US Coast Guard cutter transferred through the US Excess Defense Articles program. The United States noted that recently announced King Air program to strengthen Sri Lanka's maritime monitoring capacity and respond to humanitarian and post-disaster needs. While the US Undersecretary of State has said that the United States will stand by Sri Lanka, the question that must be asked is, has the US stood by its NATO ally, Ukraine? Weeks ago, when Ukraine was invaded by Russia, its president was confident that the US was with Ukraine. But today, the Ukraine has been left to fend for itself in the face of the Russian invasion with limited support from the United States. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made this statement openly.
Victoria Nuland played an important role in sparking the war in Ukraine. We can see many similarities between what Victoria Nuland did in Ukraine and what she is going to do in Sri Lanka. Victoria Nuland played a role in toppling Viktor Yanukovych and then appointed a new right-wing government. Victoria Nuland changed governments in Ukraine and steered the country to adopt a foreign policy that inclines more towards the US. There is reasonable doubt whether she is attempting to tilt Sri Lanka's foreign policy towards the US as well. That is what she means by saying that Sri Lanka is an important country in creating an open and free Indo-Pacific. They have declared something called an Indo-Pacific region by dragging countries like the US, Australia, Japan and even us into this.
America එක්සත් ජනපදයත් ඔස්ට්‍රේලියාවත් ජපානයත් මේකට ඉන්දියාවත් ඈඳ ගනිමින් එහෙම වැඩපිළිවෙලක් යනවා.
The opposition has accused the government of attempting to sign the MCC agreement during a parliamentary debate on amending the Land Development Ordinance.
කතාන්දර ගියා MCC ගිවිසුම නැවත ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා කියලා. මේක ඇති MCC ගිවිසුමක් නැහැ. ජනතාවට සහනයක් දෙන සංශෝධන සහ රෙගුලාසි ගෙනලා තියෙන්නේ.
ගොවීන්ට පුළුවන් මේ ඉඩම් උගස් කරන්න.
Farmers can already mortgage their lands. That right exists under the current law. But they can only mortgage it to a state bank under the supervision and permission of the divisional secretary. If these lands can be mortgaged to microfinance institutions, then these provisions would be dangerous. These amendments pave the way for that. This will see lands ending up in the hands of large-scale businessmen and financial institutions. Although the MCC agreement won't be signed, what is included under the agreement is being implemented through this.
MCC එකට අවශ්‍ය වන දේ මේ සංශෝධන හරහා සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
නැගිනහිර ගත්තොතින් ඉඩම් ටික.
We have given assets in the east to India. The finance ministry also visited India recently. We don't have the conditions on which they obtained a $1 billion loan. China is also going to provide a loan of $2 billion. They have reached agreements with China as well to give away valuable lands. At the same time, valuable lands crucial for the energy sector. Today, the government is serving as an auction center for lands. The country has to protect its lands from this government.
මේ රටට වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ ආණ්ඩුවෙන් මේ රටේ තියෙන ඉඩම් ටික බේර ගන්න කටයුතු කරන්න වෙලා තියෙනවා. හම්බන්තොට වරාය අනේ ඔබතුමා දැන් මොකද්ද මේ කතා කරන්නේ වාසුදේව ඇමතුමා මම දන්නේ නැහැ.
Minister Vasudeva, what are you talking about? Am I to address you as a minister or a parliamentarian? Are you continuing to remain in your ministerial position? If you are not in the position, have the backbone to resign. Otherwise, the president should have the backbone to remove him.
ඇතුව අමාත්‍යවරයන් ඉල්ලා ආස්වෙන්න. එහෙම නැත්නම් ජනාධිපතිතුමාට කොන්ද බණ තියෙන්න ඕනේ මෙතුමාම ආස් කරන්න.
මේ පුංචි මිනිස්සුන්ට පොඩි චොක්ලට් පෙත්තක් කටර දාන ගමන් පොඩි සැකරින් කෑල්ලක් කටර දාන ගමන්
The country's leaders are continuing to give away the country's assets while providing the innocent people various things to keep them occupied. The finance minister is an expert in lands. There is a case against him over a land owned by him in Browns Hill, Matara. His name is also tainted over a land case in Malvana. Basil Rajapaksa is infamously known for his role in purchasing and acquiring lands.
හොඳ නම් දරුවෝ කප්පිට් එක් තමයි මේ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයා.
උසාවියේ නඩුවක් තියෙද්දි ඒක මෙතන කතා කරන එක වැරදි කරුවන්තුවා. ඒක බලපාඩු.
මම දැක්ක පත්තරේ තියෙනවා ගරු.
In the newspapers, I read that they were silent during the meeting with the Prime Minister on the issues faced by the country. Various views were expressed on the MCC agreement in the past. When Victoria Newland comes from the US and when lands are being sold off, just as it is mentioned in the MCC agreements, the country knows that this matter is being taken up to cover up the worries of the people. 160,000 paddy fields went barren during the last season. They are following a policy of making this country bankrupt and then selling off its assets.
The Sri Lanka Navy entered into an agreement yesterday with India for the acquisition of a 4,000-ton naval floating dock. The dock will be set up at the Trincomalee Naval Dockyard in the next 30 months by India's state-owned Goa Shipyard Limited. The dock is to be set up at a cost of $20 million. India is also planning to provide $6 million to construct a maritime rescue coordination center in Sri Lanka and several other sub-units. Cabinet approval has already been granted to sign these agreements. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, speaking in Parliament, said that while the people are suffering in queues, the government is entering into many agreements that would have a serious impact on the country. Last week, Cabinet approved to award a tender to purchase 4.2 million barrels of crude oil from July to December. The day before yesterday, Minister of Energy Gamini Lohuge presented another proposal for the purchase of another stock of crude oil completely out of the procurement procedure. This proposal is for the purchase of 700,000 barrels of crude oil from a company in the United Arab Emirates named Fortune General Trading. The Cabinet had awarded the tender as an experiment for a year. They have received approval to make the payment 50% in dollars and 50% in rupees. The payment in rupees must be transferred to an offshore company immediately, and the dollar payment can be done by way of a letter of credit within a 200-day period. This is a serious problem, Deputy Speaker. What is this offshore company? What is this deal? Where is the transparency? Where is the procurement procedure? All of these deals are being struck at a time when the people of this country are languishing in queues. A proposal was submitted and approved by Cabinet for 2 Dornier aircrafts to engage in observations for search and rescue operations. Another agreement was signed for the construction of a 4,000-ton floating dock. Also, financial assistance has been sought for the establishment of a digital framework. There are many foreign deals like this, Honourable Speaker. But what does this country need right now? The people are asking for fuel, gas and milk powder. They are asking for the prices of essential goods to be reduced and for paper to be supplied for their children to sit for the exams. Why can't we ask for a donation in fuel instead of Dornier aircrafts or even some gas? There is a massive problem that affects national security. As many parts of the country are being auctioned off, they have made our country a haven for various nations to engage in geopolitics.
තරංග ක්‍රියාත්මක වන ෂේම භූමියක් කරලා අද දැන් අපේ රට වෙන්දේසි වෙනවා. වඩා හොඳ 27 යටතේ.
It is better to direct these questions under 27(2) so that we can respond to them as the government. You are speaking about the import of fuel and that there is going to be a scam here. You in the opposition at one time asked to import fuel and gas as they were not available. I saw you saying that you can get down gas and fuel from 3 countries. Then you should have gone to the all-party conference today and got down fuel and gas from these 3 countries. What a victory it would have been for you. How much respect do you think the people would have given you? The people would have then said that he has solved this fuel issue without considering any party politics.
මේ රටවල්ලට ගිහිල්ලා අපිට තෙල් ප්‍රශ්න විසඳුවා. ගෝඨාභය ජනාධිපතිතුමාට බැරි වුණා. ඉතින් ඒ ගෞරවය ගන්නකො ඔබතුමා. ඒ රටවල් ලෑස්ති නැහැ මේ වඳකෝ.
Those countries do not like to deal with a government that propagates racism by spreading stories on kottu that makes people barren and surgeries that make people barren. They want to deal with us.
කරපු ආණ්ඩුත් එක්ක ගනුදෙනු කරන්න ඒගොල්ලෝ ලෑස්ති නැහැ. හොඳයි. ඒගොල්ලෝ ලෑස්ති අපිත් එක්ක ගනුදෙනු කරන්න. ඒ ඔබතුමා ගෞරවය ගන්නකො. තමුන්නාන්සේට අභියෝග කරනවා. පුළුවන් නම් අපේ අදක්ෂකම් ඔක්කොම අපි තීන්දුව කරමු පස්සේ ජනතාවට දෙන්න. පුළුවන් නම් ඔබතුමා ගේන්නකො. රාජ්‍ය තාන්ත්‍රික ගනුදෙනු.
When dealing diplomatically, it is government to government and not government to opposition. You should understand that. He just admitted that they can't do it and that we can. They can't, but the SJB in the opposition can. Hand it over to us and we will show you how it is done.
සජබෙට පුළුවන්. බාර දෙන්න වැඩ පෙන්නන්න. බාර දෙන්න වැඩ පෙන්නන්න.
10 Sri Lankans who fled to India's state of Tamil Nadu have been taken into custody by Indian officials today. They had left on a boat from Vaunia to Dhanushkodi in Tamil Nadu on Monday. Indian media reported that the 10 escapees had been stuck at sea for more than 30 hours as there was a mechanical failure on the boat. Our Newsfirst correspondent from Rameshwaram reported that the group had been taken into custody when they reached the Dhanushkodi North Fisheries Harbour. The group included 5 children and 3 women.
The cost of goods has increased. It's unbearable for us. There's a shortage of goods as well.
We came here because the situation back home is bad. We can't survive in our country. There was a mechanical failure in our boat. Therefore, we were stuck at sea for a day. We repaired that and came here.
There are issues relating to food, rice, kerosene and petrol in our village. It's difficult to find food. My family and my sister's family came here. We left at 8 a.m. We don't know how many are to come. Many people are planning to leave. We came here in the 1990s and returned in 2012. 6 Sri Lankans who fled the country were rescued from an island by the Indian Coast Guard yesterday. 16 Sri Lankans have fled to India so far, seeking refugee status.
The US Undersecretary for Political Affairs, Victoria Newland, met with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today.
The president had informed Newland of the matters that were discussed at the all-party convention and his meeting with the Tamil National Alliance next Friday. The US Undersecretary has highlighted the importance of holding discussions with the diaspora in Canada, the United States and Europe. The president has said he is willing to hold discussions with the diaspora. He had added that he invites investments for development projects in the northern province. The visiting US state official had appreciated Sri Lanka's mechanism to identify the truth and to amend the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Meanwhile, the European Union has urged Sri Lanka to take further steps to make the Prevention of Terrorism Act fully compliant with international norms. While welcoming the new amendments to the PTA as first steps in the right direction, the EU called on Sri Lanka to continue reducing the use of the PTA.
News First with the people.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has instructed all banks to sell half of their foreign currency they receive weekly.
Sri Lankan banks received foreign currency through workers' remittances and export proceeds. They have now been instructed to sell 50% of the foreign currency to the central bank weekly. The previous limit was 25%. In a circular, the central bank said the aim of increasing the limit is to improve Sri Lanka's foreign reserves and to import gas, fuel, coal and medicine. Recently, the central bank said it would allow the exchange rate of the rupee to float. This was to encourage foreign currency to flow into the country through banks instead of informal channels. Central bank data showed the selling rate of the dollar was 285 rupees today.
Now, protests are continuing in Sri Lanka as problems continue to grow in the country. People in Colombo and its suburbs are now among those taking to the streets out of frustration. Our reporters met with protesters who participated in silent protests this evening. We begin our coverage from Colombo 7, where Ravindu Jayakodi met with some of these protesters.
These silent, peaceful demonstrations, which started in Kohuala recently, has now developed into a massive movement. The significance of these demonstrations is that none of the members who are present here are affiliated to any political party in Sri Lanka. Right now I am at the Lipton roundabout in Colombo, where a similar demonstration is staged by the general public to show their protest against the government's failure in securing the economy of the nation.
We are here because we are very, very sad about the plight of our people. They are suffering, they are dying, they have nothing to eat. We want the government to respond to this and give relief to people who are suffering.
It's not only one generation that is affected here, but there are future generations that are affected. Enough is enough. We need to take a stand, and I'm inviting others too to join this.
Nisa Suryarachi joins us from Diyata Uyana Battarmulla.
Right now I'm in Battaramulla and the people are taking to the streets. The youth of the nation is taking to the streets. These people belong to no political party. These people are independent individuals who are voicing their concerns against the government, demanding some justice, some solution for the chaos that is going on, that is not only affecting their lives but also their futures.
We're literally living in poverty. There's no milk, there's no electricity. This is no different than socialist Venezuela.
People are dying in fuel queues. The president hasn't even acknowledged it. Not once. People are dying. How long are we going to wait? How long are we going to wait?
We also have Ahmad Buso, who joins us from Mount Lavinia, where another silent protest was held.
Right now, I'm here in Mount Lavinia, where a similar people's protest is being staged. And as you can see, these people here are the general public. They are not affiliated to any of the political parties. All what they're asking is a solution for the rising cost of living, caused due to the skyrocketing prices of the essential goods.
I'm from India, and from last 4 to 5 days I'm staying over here in the hotel, and I'm facing the same problem of electricity. In a day 2 times the electricity goes, and I'm facing the water problem as well. So I request the government to help the Sri Lankan people and do their work on time.
This is very unfair by the people who have voted for this government, and everybody is suffering. I think the people took a long time to come onto the streets, but now they have also got fed up. All we want is lifestyle of everybody to change, immaterial of who is in power.
Long queues for fuel and gas were seen in many areas today. This is despite multiple assurances given by officials on resolving the crisis.
A fuel bowser reached the Dahiyatta filling station after several days last night. Farmers have been staying in queues for weeks to purchase fuel for their machines. They held a protest after diesel wasn't sold to them even by this morning.
There is no point of holding a conference. Thieves from both ends have come together. While they are discussing, we are left here to stand along the road. We are left here in hunger, and we have no means to even go home. We are waiting in queue for some diesel.
A long queue is seen at a filling station at the Anamadua town. The filling station had received a bowser of diesel last night, but they had sold it only this morning.
We don't have any hope in these leaders. I have travelled to many countries. I have never seen people waiting in queues to purchase fuel.
Fishermen in Hambantota among those badly affected by the shortage of kerosene for their boats. A long queue for gas cylinders was seen at the Mawanella town today.
මේ පාන්දර දෙක ඉඳලා අපි ඉන්නවා තාමත් ගේස් එකට දවස් 3ක් වෙනවා ඩීසල් එකට ඒක තාම නැහැ කොහොමද ජීවත් වෙන්නේ අපි රස්සාවට යන්නේ නැද්ද රටේ ඉඳන් ආව දකුණු කොරියාවේ ඉඳන් ආව හම්බ කරලා රටේ මොකක් හරි වෙනසක් වෙයි කියලා බලාගෙන හොඳටම සැපයි දැන්.
Army officers have been deployed to filling stations run by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. This was to monitor the fuel distribution process.
Gammadda V-Force volunteers stepped in to hand over bottles of chilled water to help those standing in queues today as well. The exercise was carried out in many areas of the Colombo, Galle, Gampaha and Kurunegala districts. American Premium Water has joined Gammadda V-Force to distribute these bottles among those standing in line for several hours daily. The bottles were collected back with the aim of avoiding pollution.
Pakistan's Republic Day was celebrated in Sri Lanka at the Pakistan High Commission in Colombo today.
The event was attended by the High Commissioner of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The event began with a flag hoisting ceremony.
Pakistan attaches great importance to its relations with Sri Lanka, which are based on mutual respect, understanding and close cooperation. To further our bilateral relations, particularly in economic field, our Prime Minister recently visited Sri Lanka with a business delegation of over 40 business. Pakistan has always extended unconditional support to the Sri Lanka with regard to her national security and other needs. I would like to assure the government and the people of Sri Lanka that Pakistan would always stand with them whenever Sri Lanka needs Pakistan's support.
The participants who completed an international lifeguard training program were awarded certificates today. The program was organized by the Department of Sports Development in collaboration with Sri Lanka Life Saving and the National Youth Corps.
An international lifeguard training program focusing on the northern, eastern, north central and northwestern provinces concluded today. Participants who successfully completed the 9-day program were awarded certificates today.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2.
Unemployed youth between 18 and 35 years participated in the program.
And with that, we wrap up the news for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I am Shehan Ranatunga together with sign language interpreter Brian De Cruz. Thank you for watching.